The Griffon mount is a bird-like creature with a speed boost during its flight as a special movement mechanic. The speed boost makes this mount the fastest aerial mount in the game and is great for traveling large distances. However, it takes practice and skill to learn how to use the dive and boost controls correctly and efficiently. Now we're gonna talk about the masteries. Soaring Rescue. With the first mastery you can mount your Griffon mid-air. This mastery can come in very handy when switching from glider, springer or sky skill to Griffon. Aerial Prowess. This mastery gives you the ability to dive down and pull up. This dive will give you a slight speed boost up to 1200 units per second. Aerial Finesse. This mastery gives you the ability to wing flap during your dive. This will give you an extra speed boost up to 2k units per second. Bond of Vigor. This mastery allows the endurance to refill more quickly. If used on Griffon, this will give you extra wing flaps. Bond of Faith. This mastery allows you to dismount your current mount mid-air. This is useful for if you want to switch from sky skill to Griffon. Keybinds. Using the proper keybinds is important to be able to use Griffon to its full potential. You will make use of your forward keys and strafe keys during the flight. The mount keybinds are also very important. Make sure you have your mountability 1 and 2 keybound, as you will use these for diving and pulling up. You will not make use of your skill 1 swoop and the backwards button for diving and pulling up, because they have negative side effects. For this reason, we will only use mountability 1 for diving and mountability 2 for pulling up. Camera settings. For flying, it's best to have your field of view to the right, as putting it to the left can mess with your depth. Try not to zoom out too much during the flight, since it will be harder to see what you are approaching. The angle in which you hold your camera is also important to be able to judge the height better. Start height. The Griffon is a momentum-based mount. To be able to do the speed dive, you need to have height to begin with. You can either use a structure, springer or sky skill to gain the height needed for the speed dive. During the flight, Griffon will be able to gain a little bit of altitude above the starting height. If you are using springer for extra height, try using this trick. Mount springer and hold spacebar. Right before the endurance bar runs out, press this mount. You will get catapulted into the air. When you reach the highest point, use your keybinds to switch to the Griffon. You don't need to make use of your Bond of Faith mastery. If you are using sky skill for extra height, try using this trick. Mount the sky skill and start ascending. Use 2 dodges upwards, then use Bond of Vigor, and dodge twice upwards again. Then press Bond of Faith and switch to Griffon. If you do this correctly, you will be able to start from flat ground. If you are new at flying, it's better to start with a little bit more height than necessary, so you have room for mistakes. Now for the mechanics. Once you have enough height to start, you will press your mountability 1 to start diving. During the dive you will need to do a wing flap to gain full speed. 1 wing flap is enough for the boost. Try doing this wing flap right after you start diving and not when you are nearing the ground, as doing the wing flap too late will likely make you crash. Your Griffon can already do a wing flap at 66% of the endurance bar if you tap the space bar. If you hold your space bar, your Griffon will only do a wing flap at 100% of the endurance bar. For this reason, it's better to tap the spacebar rather than hold it. After you gain full speed, it is not needed to use the boost again during the dives. You will only use this boost again once you have fully pulled up. To go straight, simply release your dive button. Your Griffon will be able to hold this speed for a long time. Over time, your Griffon will slowly lose its height and speed. To be able to fly endless, you will need to pull up and redive every now and again. If you have lost a lot of height, pulling up and rediving a few times in a row will make you regain the lost height. If you are approaching an obstacle, it's better to approach it from a little too high up and correct your height downwards using mini dives. Avoid doing small pull-ups to correct your height, as they will slow you down. If you slow yourself down too much, you will not be able to pull up to its full height. which maybe gives you problems when you try to redive again. A nice thing to know is that if the ceiling of a bridge or a cave is flat or smooth, you can wing flap under it without crashing. Flying close to the ground or the water gives you a height lift. This makes it possible to fly close to the surface for a long time without hitting the ground. If you feel you are too close to the ground, you can use bond of vigor to gain some extra flaps that will keep you off the ground a little longer. If you don't have bond of vigor, you can tap your mount ability to keybind very shortly during a wing flap. This will give your wing flap a slight bit more height. You can use this trick a few times, but it will slightly slow you down every time you do so it's not recommended to do this too much. For turning sharp corners, it's best to use your strafe keys. These will help you making the corners slightly sharper. Griffon Adventures. In the Path of Fire and some of the Living Worlds Season 4 maps, there are these things called Griffon Adventures. They are similar to the ones that the Beetle has. Aside of the loot and achievements you can get from them, they are also a nice way to train the basics or level a new character. If you want to be able to get faster times, try not to pull up unless you really need to. This saves a lot of time and makes it easier to get caught. You can also use flying starts to shave off some seconds on the adventures. You either want to dive or fly by the start as close as you can, and press enter once the starting screen appears. Extra tips and tricks. Holding your dive button while pulling up will give you extra wing flaps upwards, since the endurance bar will refill faster. If you have trouble figuring out the hitbox of the Griffon, try using soul cakes or strawberry ghosts. Since your character isn't part of the hitbox while flying, it will be easier to figure out exactly what height is needed. Not sure if you did the speed dive correctly? Check if you see yellow swirls while diving. They appear once you have done the speed boost. This works on every skin except for the Night Fang. The Night Fang, they always appear nonetheless and makes it harder to judge if you have done your boost correctly. If you press the spacebar right before pulling up, your Griffon will stretch its wings during the way up. Although it doesn't do anything speed or mechanic wisely, it does look more clean than a normal animation. Prototype position rewinder is nice to have while you are practicing. You can mark a point, and if you crash within 30 seconds you will be able to teleport back to your starting point. Spiral dives and pull-ups. This is purely a camera trick, but it can be fun to use and can sometimes even be useful in tight areas where you need to spin your Griffon. There's two ways of doing it. I will explain you my version of doing it. You can do this trick by holding your left mouse button and turning it the opposite direction of your spin. Then use one of your strafe keys, about face keybind and right mouse button with a certain timing. And if you want more spins, you can repeat this. Thank you a lot for watching the guide. I hope it will help you with flying.